Well, hello, team. Today we've got a ton to do, and we're talking all about fractions. So, what I need you to do is I need you to go ahead and each person at your table needs to get your learning guide and your 4 strips of color. So, your learning guide is this piece of paper right here, and it has the little target up in the top. That's going to tell us what we're doing today and how we're going to get there. So, go ahead and get that organized for me, and then we'll jump right in. So, we learn about fractions so that we know about how to count with time, talk about money when we're eating pizza and Kit Kat bars. We deal with fractions in our everyday life, and so it's really important that we get to know this. So I'm going to go ahead and read the learning target up at the top of your learning guide. So please follow along with me as I do that. Today I am learning about fractional units. I am learning this so that I can understand what each piece represents out of the whole shape. I'll know I'm successful when I can identify the numerator and denominator with fractions as part of a whole or part of a group. Now, I know there's a lot of big words in there, so we're going to break that down a little bit, and hopefully we have a better understanding by the end of the lesson. So, what is a fraction? We've already been kind of introduced to fraction, as I've already told you some things that we use fractions for. Now, a fraction is simply, it tells us how many parts of a whole we have. So, we have one whole thing, and we break pieces out of it. And those pieces that we break out are fractions. We break a fraction from that whole piece. So the numerator, what we're trying to figure out is what are numerators and denominators? A numerator is the top number in a fraction. So it represents how many pieces we have. So if we're thinking about a piece of pizza and we cut it into 8 even pieces, Mr. Fisher eats 1. So I've eaten 1 out of the 8. So my 1 represents the numerator. Okay, so the top number. How many out of the whole did I eat? The denominator represents the whole thing. So Mr. Fisher ate 1, the numerator, but there were 8 total pieces. So the 8 is the denominator. Okay, so we're going to get into this a little bit. So right now you should have your learning guide and you should have your 4 colors. Your 4 colors should have blue, pink, red, and orange, and they should look like this. Just like this. We're going to do this by making some fraction strips. Okay, so follow along with me. I'm going to give you some time to talk with your group. I'm going to ask you some questions as we go. But for this first one, go ahead and get your blue piece of paper. Get your blue strip. And right in the middle of that strip, you're going to write this. You're going to write 1 whole. So go ahead and write 1 whole. Now, this isn't the kind of hole that you dig in the ground. We're talking about, I ate the whole thing. So this is one of our homophones that we need to make sure that we recognize. Okay, so 1 whole. It should look like that. Now, on your learning guide, you have a question. 1 whole, the fractional unit, it's just going to be whole. All right, so go ahead and write whole next to it. W-H-O-L-E. So right here where it says fractional unit, write whole. Because that's what we're talking in. One of these is 1 whole. Okay, so the fractional unit is a whole. How many make up a whole? How many make up a whole? Well, we only have 1. So we have 1 makes up a whole. So go ahead and write 1. All right, now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and take your pink piece of paper. And I want you to take it, I want you to fold it right in the middle. Right in the middle, so it should look like this. Go ahead and open it back up and draw a line where that crease was. So it should look something like this. And on each side, we're going to write 1/2. All right, so we're going to write 1/2. And that looks like this. 1/2. All right, so now I have 1 whole and I have a half. I'm going to line it up with this whole. I'm going to line up the half with the whole. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, go ahead and do that for me and show me when you got it. Just have it on your table. I'll walk around and see when you got it done. So we have 1 whole, we have 1/2. Now, I'm calling this 1/2, right? When we tear something down the middle, we cut it in half or we tear it in half. So in your fractional unit on your learning guide is going to be 1/2. One of these is 1/2. Now I ask you another question there on your learning guide. It says, how many make up a whole? How many of these halves make up a whole? Go ahead and think to yourself. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think on your own. 2. Awesome. So if you notice, we have 2 of these halves that makes up 1 whole. All right, so next to how many make up a whole, go ahead and write 2. Go ahead and take your orange piece of paper now. And what I want you to do is I want you to fold it in half because we're working with halves now. But then don't leave it like this. Go ahead and fold it in half again. So now I have this. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. When you open it back up, you're going to have those creases. Go ahead and mark the lines on those creases. Draw your lines on those creases. And we'll be able to refer back to these fraction strips again later on. Right now, I'm glad that we're getting the chance to kind of learn how to compare these. So we have this. So hopefully yours looks like mine. If it does not, go ahead and fix it. Go ahead and fix it. But what we're really going for is we have 4 even parts. Okay. Now, just like we did with the half, we're going to make these, we're going to label these as 1/4. Okay. So the way that looks is I'm going to write 1/4 on each one. Just like that. Go ahead and do that for each box. So now we have 1/4. Now this fractional unit is going to be pretty much the same as the other ones, how we did the other ones. Now if we said that we had 1 as our numerator and 4 as our denominator, the fractional unit is going to be 1/4. We broke each of these into 1/4. So next to the fractional unit for this one, go ahead and write 1/4. And the same kind of thing, it says, now we have 2 questions. How many make up a half? Well, let's compare it. We have 1, 2. We're comparing it to one of the halves. So if I cover up this half, how many fourths make up that? We have 1, 2. 2 make up a half. So go ahead and write 2 next to a half. And then we're looking at how many make up a whole. Now I have mine lined up like this. I have mine lined up. How many fourths do we have that equals a whole? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 fourths equals 1 whole. So go ahead and write that. 4. Now I want you to try to go ahead and do the last one on your own. Now I'm going to help you with the fraction strip, and then I'm going to give you a chance to try to fill in those blanks on your own. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the fraction strip and we fold it in half. This would represent our halves. Then we folded it again, which represented our fourths. Now we're going to fold it one more time. It should look like this. Go ahead and unfold it and mark your lines on there. it should look like that. Once you've had your lines marked on there, I want you to go ahead and write the fraction 1/8 on each one. So it should look like that. And you're going to do it for each box, 1/8. Great, so now I have this. Just like the other ones, you're going to line it up with the rest, okay? So you're going to line it up with the other fraction strips, making sure that the edges line up. So once I have it lined up, it looks like this. Okay, I'm going to give you time with your partners, with your group, to try to fill in the questions that are right here next to the eighth. So just like this, we're trying to figure out the fractional unit. Go ahead and make an educated guess, a prediction, based on what you think the fractional unit could be. And then tell me how many of them go into a fourth, how many make up a half, and how many make up a whole. So hopefully you found with your group that the fractional unit is an eighth. We broke it into 8 different parts. We broke it into 8 different parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So one of these is 1/8. Now, I asked how many make up a fourth, so we have to compare it with the fourth. So if I cover this up and I just look at the fourths, I look at the fourth and I look at the eighth there. How many eighths make up 1/4? You see that it's 1, 2. 2/8 makes 1/4. So I wrote 2. Now I said how many make up a half? So you're comparing it not with the fourths anymore, but the halves. So how many make up the half? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 make up 1/2. So 4 make up 1/2. And how many make up the whole? Well, if we compare it with the whole up here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 make up the whole. So we have 2/8 equals a fourth, 4/8 equals a half, and 8/8 equals a whole. Now you have some questions there on the bottom that I want you to go ahead and try with your group. And they ask you about identifying the numerator and denominator, and also trying to identify what fraction we broke it into. Okay, so it says a pizza is cut into 8 different pieces on the same side of the same size and shared evenly by 8 friends. What fraction of the pizza does each friend get? And then you're trying to tell me what the numerator and denominator of the fraction are. So go ahead and give that a shot. I'll be around to help out. Thanks, guys.